How does the burden of proof impact legal cases? Imagine a game where one team has to prove they are right, and the other team just needs to show enough evidence to challenge that. That's what the burden of proof is all about. It's a key part of how courts decide who wins or loses. When a case starts, the party making a claim must meet certain standards of proof. These standards tell us how convincing their evidence needs to be to persuade the judge or jury. There are two main parts to the burden of proof. The first is the burden of production. This means the party must bring enough evidence to support their claim so the judge or jury considers it seriously. If they don't, the case can be dismissed right away. The second part is the burden of persuasion. This is about how sure the party must be to win the case. They need to convince the fact finder that their version of the facts is more likely true than not. In criminal cases, the burden of proof is very high. The prosecution must prove the defendant's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. This means there should be no reasonable doubt left in the mind of the judge or jury about the defendant's guilt. Because criminal cases can lead to jail or loss of freedom, the law sets this high standard to protect innocent people. In civil cases, which are more common in sports and entertainment law, the standard is lower. The party with the burden, often the person bringing the case, must prove their claim by a preponderance of the evidence. That simply means they need to show it is more likely than not that their claim is true. For example, if an athlete sues a team for breach of contract, they must prove it is more likely than not that the team broke the agreement. Sometimes, the case calls for an intermediate standard called clear and convincing evidence. This is used in cases like fraud or disputes over intellectual property rights. It's a higher level of certainty than preponderance but less than beyond a reasonable doubt. The burden of proof shapes how parties prepare their cases. If you are the one with the burden, you need to gather contracts, emails, witness statements, or other proof to meet the required standard. If you fail to do so, you might lose the case even if your claim is true. In sports and entertainment disputes, understanding who has the burden of proof and what they need to prove is vital. It guides how they gather evidence and how they argue their case. Whether it's a contract dispute, a defamation claim, or an intellectual property fight, the burden of proof determines the strength needed to win. It's the backbone of how justice is served in these lively and often complex legal battles.